So one of the things that I feel is often overlooked and can be a strong benefit of study abroad and is what would definitely make it worth it. I think particularly in this time that we're living in where everything that is, has been normal is now weird to a certain extent, and things are changing so quickly. And a lot of people like you who are, maybe you're a student right now in your third year or in your junior year of college, if you're, in a place like the US or Canada, or maybe you're still in high school, but you're trying to look forward, to the next 5 or 10 years and figure out, what your plan sort of looks like now. It probably has changed from what it would have been in 2020 as you were looking forward. You probably, you're thinking forward of, that once you graduate, you're going to have to move somewhere else, or maybe your career field has changed for what you want to do. Maybe your entire life has flipped upside down, whatever that is. And so I think that one of the things that a lot of people miss about study abroad in particular is that it can often bring on the most unexpected opportunities. And I know that it definitely depends on where you're studying abroad. It depends on where you're coming from, because sometimes you are limited to just how long you're able to study abroad, depending on what country you're coming from. But there are so many opportunities out there. I think back to when I was in my sort of final part of my last graduate program in London back in 2011. And again, like I said in the previous video from last Friday, I was, kind of a recession kid in a sense of, I was a recession graduate. I graduated at the height of the 2008, 2009 recession. And luckily for me, like I, had a plan, had lots of support and everything at home. So I wasn't so much worried about the financial side of it, but I definitely was in that space of figuring out what to do next. And, kind of coming out of grad school, figuring out, well, do I go back to the US where things still are not going well financially and economically? Can I stay here in the UK? What does that kind of mean? And I got so fortunate. I ended up applying for this internship, which it basically was only supposed to be for 6 weeks. So it was during the summertime. And during the summertime, at least for my program, all we had to focus on was writing our dissertation. So I had a lot of free time on my hands. And at that time, you couldn't, I mean, you pretty much still can't do this, but you couldn't work full time in the UK if you were on a visitor visa. And so for me, I was just looking for like an opportunity to, yeah, make some extra money, but also to kind of figure out where, are there like different opportunities for me to potentially find a career? What will that look like? And so I took on this internship. It was only part-time, and it was great for me because, again, like I said, I only had to work like four or so days throughout the week. And also too, I didn't have to work like full time. Like it wasn't like that. So basically all I was hired to do was just to like work on a website. So I was working for a travel company, and all they really had me doing was basically like writing these short paragraphs because they were redoing their website. So writing these short paragraphs and finding pictures for the website. So it was like really simple based on my skill set of what I was doing. It's like I'm a fantastic writer, and I can go through like a licensed catalog of photos and find photos. And so it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was a small company. And so I got a chance to really connect with a lot of people that did a lot of important things. So like, the travel editor and the person who was like managing the booking of the travel and the head of marketing, and even got to work closely with the owner for a lot of times. But the other thing that kind of came out of that was I ended up actually staying with that company for nearly a year and a half. I just kept getting opportunities. So it's like that 6-week internship sort of phased out. And then I got moved to sort of an advanced internship by happenstance. They were like, oh, do you want to stay on? And I was like, well, yes, I'm still working on my dissertation, don't really have anything else going on. Yes, I'll stay on. Got moved to that. Then after about maybe 5 months out of that, I moved on to be like an associate. it still had to be called an intern for visa purposes, but it was an associate level. So I was actually helping to like stage events and working closely with the CEO on outreach to different companies to sort of engage them with partnerships. And I mean, it was something that was sort of really unexpected because again, like I went there with the intention of just like, I'm going to find this opportunity, while I'm doing my dissertation, and then I'm going to need to start looking for a grown-up job, my first grown-up job. And I would have never expected that they kept me on for so long. And so, I say that to say that I think that there is such an opportunity in unexpected things that can come up from study abroad that people often overlook. I know that that ranges from everything from career based to there are a lot of people that they meet the person that they're going to spend the rest of their life with. When they're studying abroad, those are always great stories to hear. There are people that end up, kind of learning so much about themselves when they study abroad. It gives them so much value and they feel like, this is the first time where they've actually been able to tap into who they are, what they believe, what they stand for. And so I think that no matter what it is, if it's career based, if it's, romance based, if it is personally based, if you are just feeling like, you found the place where you belong, that alone is so powerful. And I think that that is something that you can't get unless you actually travel to a new place and you are actually living there and absorbing the culture and sort of being able to become part of it. And I think that that is something that study abroad students often overlook, or they don't necessarily really think about. They think more about the basic things. So when you think about study abroad, you obviously think of, you're going to get to travel to the new place. You hopefully will get to make some friends. You're going to get to maybe go out and, party and experiment and do different things. But I think also like the other opportunities. And I think that within that, also just remembering, as I was saying before in the other video, that opportunities are not necessarily, it doesn't make you an opportunist. So I think that it's very important to point that out. Like you shouldn't just be like, oh, I have this opportunity, like let me just, use this person. Like that is not what it should be. But I think that it's more about like that fact of, if you have an opportunity and you feel like it is the right fit for you, you feel like it's going to help you advance in your career or in your life or something that is going to make you happy, that you definitely should take it and that you should value it and that you should nurture it. So if it is, going to be a career-based opportunity, make sure that, you're doing what you need to do, that you are, thankful to the people who have given you the opportunity, that you, show that you really want it. So it's like, if you're promoted into a position like I was, you're doing what you need to do. So you are being responsible, showing up on time, doing the work that you're being asked to do, because they didn't have to do that for you. And same thing with the other opportunities that you may be given. You want to make sure that you are actually doing that so that you can put yourself into a more valuable place. And that is just going to be able to follow you along in your journey. So even if you decide that you won't be living abroad anymore and you want to go back home, that you will have set a great foundation so that you can go back at any time and not have any sort of weird vibes with people, and that you can definitely just sort of step back in and, just get back to enjoying what you love to do, but also having great connections around the world as well. I also wanted to just talk about competitive edge. So on the same note of, kind of understanding what it is like to come of age or come of age for a career or, sort of higher learning in a time of upheaval, I totally get where, and in some ways, this is definitely different than the big recession, because again, that was just an economic um, collapse. So I mean, it was definitely a big deal and a lot of people went through a lot of things. I'm not making light of that, but I feel like this is bigger than that in a lot of ways, because literally the entire world is going through this and there's so many different moving parts. So as we know, there's some people right now who, they're getting evicted from their homes. And, there are some people who, they've had to leave college because they can't afford it. Or, maybe right now they're going through some personal things. They can't focus on that right now. We know that there are just people that are dealing with, maybe trying to balance multiple jobs, or maybe they are frontline worker or whatever it is. Like there's so many different moving parts happening around the world right now. And so I know that the sort of feeling of instability of that, if you are in school, so high school, college, graduate school, particularly for the college and graduate school kids, where it's like you definitely, I know if I know anything about you, like most students, you had a plan, right? And so it's like you had kind of everything planned out of what you wanted to do. And now that may look completely different. I think that using something like study abroad, even if it's just for 3 months, is going to give you a competitive edge. Now, this is something that I have said from, the beginning of time, right? So that is one of the reasons why people do decide to study abroad. But I think that now more than ever, as you are coming out of school, as you are maybe looking to get into grad school, as you're looking to start your career, it literally is anything that you can do to sort of give yourself a competitive edge to make sure that you get the most that you're worth. Now, we are really in an interesting place. I can definitely speak for here in the US. I think that it is similar in other places like the UK, Germany, Italy. But here in the US, we're in a really interesting place because for the first time in years, we're sort of back to where it is basically a job seekers market. Now, when I was coming out of school, obviously I was just, going to grad school. But for a lot of the kids that were coming out of school, when I was coming out of school back in 2009, it was definitely a job givers market. And so, I mean, the jobs were limited. And so that's kind of what happens in a recession where it's like things are limited. Companies are, slashing positions, they're slashing salaries, they're slashing, opportunities, all like that. This is a complete flip around. So it's like, we have almost, not necessarily in this country as many jobs as we have for people, but we have more than enough jobs. And for whatever reason, there are certain reasons that I won't get into in this video, people not taking them. So not taking the jobs for different reasons. And so that is an interesting spot to be in. So it's encouraging because, and again, this could look different 6 months from now, but it's encouraging because it means that there is opportunity there. But we want to make sure that you are getting the most for what you can. So, like being able to use your experience and your competitive edge with study abroad, maybe that's going to get you an extra 10% bump in salary. Maybe it's something where you can, get yourself to maneuver into a different type of position than what you were hired for. Like there's all these different things that can only help you. And I'm still encouraging students that even if you are in a job seekers market, you want to make yourself the most standout person that you can for that job. Because again, like even if we are in a position where it's flipped, so now, we're not in the Great Recession where for every job there were 300 people applying. We may be in it where it's like for every job there are 10 people applying, which is really sad. But you want to be the best out of that 10. So it's like if there are 10 people applying, you want to rise to the top of that 10. That is still so important. It doesn't matter what is happening in the world. You want to put your best foot out there. You want to put your best foot forward. And doing something like study abroad, again, as I always say, can only help enhance your resume, help enhance your experience. And so you definitely want to consider doing that so that you can, just have, just a leg up on the competition. I know that sounds a little bit sort of cheesy or whatever, but it's true. It's like, it still matters. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, what is happening in the world in terms of financial markets and, what's really going on. You still want to be the best out there. You want to be as competitive as you can be, and study abroad can only help you with that. So I would say, please consider, if you've been on the fence about it, or if you're still thinking about it, please consider studying abroad before you finish school so that you can just have something else that gives you more of a competitive edge. It's only going to help you in the future with whatever you're planning to do.